Hey guys, thank you so much. It's good to be here again with you all, and welcome. This is The Real in the real estate market with the Laura VanHart. So I'm so glad that you tuned in today. I'm excited because this is the very first quarter of 2023. And last year in real estate, when I talked to my clients at the end of the year, I sent out a poll and I was like, you know what, tell me what you want to know. I'm interested in hearing what is the most important to you in your real estate investment. What do you want to know? How can you make things better? What can you do? What are your goals? And the number one thing that people asked me was, what's going to happen in 2023? And that's the first thing that I heard over and over and over again. Will rates come down? Are we gonna have a recession? Is the economy gonna be more stable? What's gonna happen? And I get that all the time. People will ask me that question. And I think because we have come out of some crazy and unprecedented times in our real estate, and as realtors, honestly, we've had to try to catch our breath as well. So if you've wondered what's going on, it's been really important for us to kind of take a look, to get some education on this and to see where we've come from and where we're headed, where are we going. So we have a lot to talk about right now, but first of all, where did we come from in 2022? It's been a crazy, wild ride, okay? And currently right now, all eyes are gonna be, as we project into 2023, on the Federal Reserve. Right? They're the key people. Now, something to understand about the Federal Reserve is they don't set mortgage rates, but the things that they do obviously influence those mortgage rates, right? Because they have that influence on what we're seeing in inflation, taxation, all those things. So it's really important to keep your eyes on the Federal Reserve, see what's going on with them. You know, you may not be a financial guru. I never thought I'd be somebody that would keep my eyes on that. Now in real estate, I am. But take a look every now and then, see what's going on and what they're doing, so you can just be aware and on top of those things. But the question is can the Federal Reserve make a market to be more stable this year in 2023? Will they make that climate work a little bit more in favor of both buyers and sellers and not be so wacky and all over the place? So let's look back. We're going to look back at 2022, and I have some notes here because I think it's really important. So the rates, let's just talk about mortgage rates alone in 2022. It was a wild year for that. We started at the beginning of 2022 in the first quarter at about a 3%. Sometimes I had folks getting under 3 in a 2% range for mortgage rates, which were shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? Listen, shoulda, coulda, woulda song has been played over and over and over again. I've talked to many people, man, I shoulda, coulda, woulda done that when it was 2.5%, right? So we were seeing 3% mortgage rates at the beginning of 2022, and then they hiked all the way up to 7 in November, and then 6.3 finishing out in December of 2022. So we had a double rate market in 1 year alone. I mean, that was a flip-flop. So really, really wild. So at the beginning of last year, strong sellers market still coming out of 2021, multiple offer scenarios. Sellers were living the dream. They were having money thrown at them. People were giving them cash over appraised value. Buyers were having to put in many, many offers on many different homes. There was lines out the doors at your listing where people were looking, and that was kind of coming off of 2021. There was still low inventory. And then at the end of 2022, with that rate hike, what we were seeing is that our buyers were having higher closing costs. Sellers weren't having money thrown at them as much, right? And so sellers had to make some more concessions for their buyers. They needed to pay some closing costs, whereas at the beginning of the year, they might have had some of their closing costs paid for them. So things are just were changing and shifting very quickly, very rapidly. Appraisers had to catch up, realtors had to catch up. And if you had a crummy realtor in that whole thing, I'm really sorry, because we were doing whiplash a little bit here because it was changing so quickly from month to month. So that's 2022. Let's talk about 2023 and what is projected. So we did see a little bit of the highest peak in November of 22 at about 7%, and then we decreased at 6.3, and everybody was like, oh, thank God. I can breathe, it's coming down. This is positive, so everyone's kind of getting a little bit excited. But let's look at what the experts are saying. So I have a slide I want to share with you. And this is when we're looking at Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, we're looking at the Mortgage Bankers Association and the National Association of Realtors, which cracks me up that they put us last. But that's okay, it's fine. Anyway, so these are all projecting a decline, ever so slight, in the rates over the next 4 quarters in 2023. And as you can see over this slide, everyone's projecting a slow decrease in the rate. Nothing real crazy, but if you take the average, we're going to be in the 6s, and the average down to the last quarter in 2023 is going to be back down into the 5s. That's the projection. Now honestly, this number could change, and it could change quite rapidly as we keep our eyes on the Federal Reserve. Remember, we have to keep our eyes on them and what they're doing, but the overall projection is to see a decrease, which is really good. Now, these projections, even though they're a little bit slight, how do they affect your buying and or your selling of your home in 2023? The good news is it does create a more stable environment when things are kind of even, right? No, do we love 6.5 compared to 2.5? No, we don't. But if it's kind of an even keel projection for the year, we have a much more stable environment for both buyers and sellers. On the seller side, you may not have people throwing money at you all the time to win a multiple offer bid, but you are going to have more buyers that are willing to purchase because they don't feel so volatile. They're not going to feel like, uh-oh, is this a bad move for me? And so that's good. That's positive for you. You want to have people out there buying. You want to create an environment where they're willing to put their money out there. And you can't sell a home without someone willing to buy, right? So that's important. For buyers looking to get into the market, should the trend progress in 2023 like this and we see the rates go down, you can also reinvestigate refinancing. So say you get in at the second quarter of the year at 6.2, and then in a year that number continues to decrease, you can look at refinancing that loan. And so that's a positive for you. I always tell people, and I talked to my client the other day, because she's looking at selling her home, and she's like, well, should I do this? And I'm like, buyers are going to be in a position now where they're more interested to purchase, and they don't want to play that shoulda, coulda, woulda. We all did it last year. We're like, man, that was a great time. So don't necessarily do that for yourself. If you see that there's more stable of a rate environment, get yourself out there, own some real estate for yourself. It's much more of a positive investment and way to use your money. Okay, so that's the first thing we've talked about was rates, right? So that's the first thing in market climate. It's super important to understand our rate environment. So let's go into this. Prices and values of homes. Where is your home value? Where is it going? Where did it come from? Where did it go? What is it doing in the next year for 2023? So let's back up a little bit again. We're going to talk about 2022 and even back a little bit. 2019 to 2020, we had a very normal increase in valuations in home values, okay? It was about 3 to 4%. That's a fairly normal increase from 2019 to 2020. And then it took a spike. That's the beginning to mid of 2020. And then it took a spike and appreciated even more, 7% up to the end of 2020. And then heading into 2021, up to 10% increase in home values. So good for you, good for us, right? And then in 2022, this is wild information. In 2022, there was a 20% appreciation in home values. Are you happy to be a homeowner right now, right? How many people were going, dang, I should have gotten in the market, right? Should have bought that extra house, should have bought that, should have done it. Anyway, so on average, the homeowner saw a steady and significant increase in the amount of equity gained in their home over the last 2 years alone. So that's a huge score for homeowners. So let's see what 2023 forecast values and pricing, okay? So as a seller, you may not be able to take advantage of the 20% increase seen in the first quarter of 2022. We're in a new year. However, on average, your home's value is up to 10%. It's up 10% over last year. So that's really still significant over that regular baseline of 3.4%. I hope that makes sense, right? So 3.4% is an average growth, but 10% is where they were up to 2020, and then 20% in 2022. But you can see that over the course of the time, on average, it's 10% overall for you as a homeowner. So if you're looking to sell, you still got a great jump on your home's value. With this growth, even with having buyers having more affordability constraints with some price declines, sellers are not likely to lose all that home value. You may lose it slightly, and this is how you might lose it. You might need to give some seller concessions up, right? You may need to make sure that you're not selling as is, where is. You have to do some repairs to your home. So you may lose some costs there, pretty normal, all right? But for the most part, the value that you've gained, you're still holding on to a lot of that value, which is really, really good for you. So it's positive for you as a seller. So let's talk about home prices for the buyers. And I have a graph that you can take a look at that's going to give you a forecast from all the folks in the industry. And you can see that on this graph, the average of these forecasts level out for home prices to be what's considered a more of a flat home price climate. So some are saying it's going to go up, some are saying it's going to go down, and you take an average of those things and it just kind of levels out. Again, showing that the projection is much more of a stable market. So as a buyer, this gives you some more negotiating power. Now, what we were talking about with the rate environment last year, if you were a buyer and you didn't have cash, and I had this conversation with my clients over and over and over again, how much cash do you have on hand last year, at the beginning of last year, and in 2021? Do you have cash on hand? Because if you don't, this is going to be really, really tough. Because we're going to go into it, there's going to be lots of competition, there's going to be multiple offer situations, and then you're going to be coming up against people that can pay their own closing costs, first of all. And then it went to can pay their own closing costs, can add an escalation clause. And then it went to own closing costs, escalation clause, throwing in $10,000, $15,000, $30,000 over appraised value. If you didn't have cash in 21 and 22, you were not in a great place. But now with this more stable market, say you don't have the cash on hand. That's a very common situation. You're looking for a no money down loan. Makes sense. You're gonna be in a much better environment to say, I don't have $30,000 hanging around in the bank that I can just spend, or I need that money for XYZ. So you're gonna be in a greater place to have some negotiating power with the seller. Cool? Cool, okay. Very, very good stuff. I love this, it's so exciting. So this is just first quarter only. We're gonna be doing the real coming to you every quarter. There's 4 quarters, obviously, in the year. So I'm gonna be bringing this to you and kind of trying to keep you as up to date as possible on what I'm learning and what I have for you, so we can make sure you're on top of things and can make some wise decisions. All right, last part, and we're just gonna keep this really, really brief. One of the biggest questions too that I get is there gonna be a recession? And that's a big question. Now, historically, just to understand, mortgage rates do normally come down during a recession. But I did a little research and just reading, and a US economist, his name is David Merkel, he's from Goldman Sachs. He reports, and I'll put some information on this for you, you can read yourself, that the probability of a recession in the next 12 months is about 35% for 2023. So that's pretty, not too bad, optimistic. Now, however, I want to tell you that the consensus estimates that probability to be about 65%. So, David Merkel, why are we so optimistic? Where are we coming from? Why are we thinking 35% when the consensus is 65%? And the idea from him and the other economists from Goldman Sachs is saying that the consistent period of below potential growth as compared to where we just came from will gradually rebalance the sales and of supply and demand, all right? So again, because we're having a little bit lower period of potential growth, we're trying to find a more even keel and rebalance of supply and demand. this, obviously is going to create again and support that more stable market environment. So the final thing that we can conclude from all this information is really saying that the forecast is saying that it's going to be more stable. Now, personally, I love sunny and 78. I don't know about you, but I do best in that environment. But stable's okay. I'll take it. I know all my realtor friends would love stable. It's great. We like stable. We don't like crazy woman realtor life. So anyway, this is very, very good for you. So looking out to 2023, your future's looking great and looking bright. Thanks guys for tuning in to my channel. It's always a pleasure. Please, if you support this channel by subscribing, drop a like, comment below. And if you are needing a realtor, please, my contact info will be below for you to check out in my bio. And I am happy to serve you. Serving you in Virginia and North Carolina. Thanks so much. Tune in again. I'll talk to you soon.